Of those safety behaviors you were describing before, the peppermint tea and the saltine crackers, are you willing to get rid of any of that stuff?
I did. I recently got rid of, not recently, a few months back, yeah. Got rid of the peppermint tea and the saltines.
Is there anything else that you keep around that you're willing to get rid of?
Tums, I'm not ready to get rid of those yet.
But that's on the hierarchy.
Yeah. Um, and then, like you said, I guess once I can live without them, it can be one of those things that we prefer to have for the family or visitors, right?
It might take a
I
while
don't know.
before it's just a preference.
I'm so
Um,
sad.
the other the other thing that's coming to mind for me is worry is a form of cognitive avoidance. So with worry, there's an unanswerable question and then there's an attempt to answer it. And I wonder while you were lying in bed last night if you were trying to avoid any of the feelings that you were having through the process of worrying.
Uh, yeah. I mean, I worry a lot. It doesn't seem to serve any purpose, but it's basically all that I do. Um, I don't understand how it avoids. It definitely feels like the opposite of avoidance. It feels like that. So I'm curious about what that means exactly.
Well, when you're worrying, what are you worrying about?
Um, I guess it's just boy, what's the difference between worry and fear? So I just lay there and I think I'm hearing him cry and I'm worried that he's crying and I'm worried that he's sick. And then I'm like, he's not crying. And then a couple seconds later, I'm like, is that him crying? Is he sick? I'm worried. I'm afraid.
Oh,
Just
you're
over and over
checking.
and over.
Yeah, you're checking. That's a mental check. Well, it's a mental check, but you're actually checking with your ears also. So the unanswerable question is he gonna is he sick and is he gonna start crying? And then the attempt to answer it is the check. Is he crying? Is he crying? Is he crying? Is he crying? That's keeping the uncertainty alive.
Hmm. Okay.
So another,
So what do you do instead?
yeah. So you would wake up, you'd have the thought, what if he's crying? And then you'd say, I'm going to handle it. If he cries and gets sick, I'm going to handle it. It's okay for me to relax my body, notice how
Mm.
tired I am, and let myself go back to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Because what
Yeah.
you're also protecting against is being asleep. When you're worrying, you're keeping yourself hypervigilant, you're keeping yourself awake so
Mm-hmm.
that you wouldn't fall asleep and miss something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I recognize that. Yeah, it's hard for me to even just leave the house and have him be here with just his dad, um, because I'm afraid that if my eyes aren't on him, he won't be okay. I don't believe that, but that's how it feels.
And so can you tell, so your mind, your cognition doesn't believe it, but your body does based on how you're responding to it.
Yeah.
So back to your metaphobia, are you willing to start with making a vomiting sound?
Uh, mm, yes, in private. I
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not willing to do that in front of anybody at this point.
Okay. Well, that would be your smallest next step there. So you're, um, yeah, an awareness of our time. Your smallest next step about your trauma work would be writing out that narrative and changing the ending, as we discussed in the beginning.
Hmm.
Your smallest next step for emetophobia would be making a vomiting sound in private. And then after that, it would be also adding in like spitting up water or spitting up something else. Do you
Hmm.
feel willing to do those things or or
Yes, those feel doable small steps. Yeah.
great?
Yes.
Okay. And then with your son, I think you'd want to work on your relationship with worry.
Hmm.
So with at night, what you'd want to do is let yourself fall back asleep in the way that I just described.
Hmm.
Um, During the day, in what way are you checking?
Sometimes I pull up the daycare app to make sure that there's no notifications about anything. Um, Sometimes I stop myself because I know that's a compulsion. Um, but I do, again, I do worry. One of the things you said in a group session recently was worry means I care. And I absolutely believe that. So it's not like I want to worry, and I'm not trying to worry. But when I see my husband not worrying, I basically believe in my heart that that means he doesn't care as much. And so my relationship with worry, I think, needs a lot of work.
Yeah, so we can continue to challenge that, and that the thought, because I worry that means I care, is something that maintains the habit of worrying.
Yeah.
So it's actually something to challenge.
Yeah. And it's hard because worry does not feel like something I can control. It doesn't. But I'm willing to believe that I'm wrong.
Great. What did you think when Ken suggested you writing out a worst case scenario script?
I have tried that with I can't remember which therapist. And it basically was me catastrophizing, and it was me panicking, and it was never going to end. They were like, write this out and read it until you stop feeling like, say, write this out make it as bad as you can. That's a horror story. And, rate your anxiety level, and then wait until it falls down like 3 points. If it triggers you at an 8, read it over and over until you're at a 5. That never happened. So for me, that's catastrophizing, and I feel like I need to try something different.
So I'm
Um,
wondering whether, and you could do this two different ways. I'm wondering if you're willing to write out some version of that, and then when you have the urge to check the monitor related to school, that you read either you say like once an hour, every hour, I'm going to read this catastrophic story, and then like not over and over, not getting it to the most anxiety I've ever felt, but just like reminding myself that something catastrophic could be occurring, and then redirecting my attention back to work. So you could do that at, you know, 53 after every hour. Or you could do every time I want to do my check, I read my exposure script instead.
hmm. I did like his idea of doing it with an accent. That might help me cry less or catastrophize less or something. I also liked when he said to say two things. He said, every morning get up and say, I hope my son gets sick today, knowing that me saying that won't make it happen, but pretending. And and then the second thing was when these anxiety lies come into my head, like I won't be able to handle it or whatever, to say fake news. I loved that. That was hilarious. So I like those two things as well. The horror story, I'm a little bit nervous about.
So we're talking about a number of different things, and you want to be willing to do whatever you try. So where do you want to start to increase your willingness long term?
Hmm. Uh, I guess saying phrases that are pretty short and manageable, um, and maybe sassy. That kind of, I think I can deal with that. Like, bring it on. I hope you get sick. Thanks but no thanks, or um, you know, yeah. I hope. I don't know.
Yeah, I think all of those are good. I wonder if it actually would be helpful to integrate the trauma work too. So bring it on. I hope he gets sick, and I can handle it if it happens.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
like, good morning, Tuesday. Give my son, hey, anxiety, give my son a tummy ache today. Bring it on, asshole. That kind of thing. I'll handle it.
yes, that sounds great.
No,
And
you
then
won't. Fake news.
good, yes. And given that you're worrying a lot throughout the day, is there a way that you could remind yourself to come back to that idea? that mantra?
Yeah, I guess every time that pops into my head, say it
Yeah,
all
sounds
day.
great. Yeah, so you could write it on a sticky note and put it on your computer. You can write it into your phone in where the alarm is, and then have an alarm go off that reminds you of it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, you could put it on the fridge,
Mm-hmm.
wherever it's relevant to cue yourself to remember to think that way. At first, it's not, I appreciate the way that you can immediately understand how to do it now. When you actually feel fear, it's pretty hard to remember. So you want to like have
Mm-hmm.
visual reminders.
Oh boy, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, it sounds like you have your work cut out for you.
Oh
Uh,
goodness, yep.
okay, we'll look forward to hearing from you again. Thank you
All
for your
right.
time.
Thank you.